Gary, what is the difference between your eggs and the eggs that people would normally buy in the grocery store?
Well, first of all, I have heritage breed chickens, which are not the normal production that you would buy in the store, where you just get plain white eggs and plain brown eggs. And being a smaller producer with a flock, I'm letting my chickens outside. I'm also feeding them a higher quality of food. They're getting eating a variety of bugs and insects, and you know, that makes a whole difference. And on top of that, at my farm, they're getting spring water from an artesian well. And I also use certain things to keep the birds very healthy. So in my nesting boxes, for example, I'm putting wood ashes to keep all the bugs off of them because chickens, like all birds, like to disinfect themselves by rolling in dirt and cleaning
Mm,
themselves. And in large productions, they don't have those ability to have the birds keep their own health. So that makes the difference in the quality, color, and consistency of the eggs.
interesting. So, you talked about the nutritional content of the eggs is basically better, better quality.
Well, when you feed your birds higher quality food, you're going to have more omega 3 and omega 6 fats. The eggs are darker in color, the yolk wise, because there's more B12. There's more of the proteins that are beneficial to your body. And an egg being the most absorbable food on earth, it's out of the scale of 100, it's 49, almost 50% of any other food on earth to absorb into your body nutrition wise.
What does free range actually mean when they say free range chicken?
Well, when they say that, according to the what you see in the stores and the commercials and advertised from large producers, when they talk free range, they're talking about the chickens being in a controlled atmosphere, being allowed to leave their cages where they're laying eggs and roam around on the ground in a big building. But they're not outside. They're not eating bugs. They're not doing what they naturally would do in the environment. They're not eating fresh grass in summertime, spring, or fall. They're not outside. They're not in the sunlight. They're not drinking water as they would please. It's a controlled environment.
Okay.
But the chickens are allowed to walk around. But that's not the same as what I call free range.
What would you say are some of the health benefits of eating organic eggs or free range eggs as opposed to the ones in the grocery store?
Well, if you're buying them from a local farmer, which is doing the practices that I do, you're getting more minerals and vitamins and nutrition. It's going to be better for your body. If you're buying stuff from the store where it's a controlled environment, the egg doesn't have the same nutritional values that it's going to bless and heal your body with. You're not getting the same amount of protein. You're not getting the same amount of fats. You're not getting the same amount of vitamin A or vitamin C or vitamin D in the oils in the egg. It's a totally different product.
Hmm. So you said there's
3
omega
and omega
threes,
6 fats, yes.
and what effect does that have on the human body?
Well, omega 3s and omega 6 fats are primarily to help our brain and cholesterol levels. Without those fats, we cannot do a lot of the processes in our body. Our body will not work without those oils and fats that we need naturally from our environment.
Why do you think that more people are talking about whole foods today?
I think that people are tired of feeling tired. They're eating from the store and they're spending a lot of money and they're seeing that they don't feel good. And then they're going to the medical system for answers. And basically, because the medical system has never really taught any of the medical system about nutrition, uh, the doctors and the medical people are lost. They're educated in basically pharmacology, but not in nutrition. And so, you know, Einstein famously said that if you're doing the same thing and over again and expecting different results, that's the definition of insanity. So, people are tired of feeling bad, so they're looking for answers. And that's why they're starting to examine growing their own food, doing things outside of what we would say in a movie, the Matrix.
You know what I've always wondered, Gary? Like, when you're cooking eggs, like, how do you cook your eggs? Because from what I understand, some of the oils, a lot of the seed oils that we use, are filled with chemicals and actually clog the arteries. So, how should we cook our eggs?
Well, from my own research and studying on my own health for years and years, and doing research in all kinds of areas outside in the environment and looking at what people do to foods, I learned over time that if you're cooking with any type of tree or vegetable oil, you're actually making a trans fat, because when you put, everybody cooks something in a metal pan, whether it's an aluminum coated pan, stainless steel pan, a cast iron pan. When you're cooking with metal over a wood fire or a gas stove or an electric heat, when you put heat to metal, anything that's inside that pan, you cannot see electrolysis. What I mean is an electrical signal. So energy is transferred. Like, for example, if you put electricity through a wire and you have too much electricity going through that wire, the wire is going to melt because it causes friction. So the same thing happens in a pan. So when you put heat into a pan and you have a tree or vegetable oil, when they come down in temperature, you make a trans fat. So what's happening molecularly, the structure turns from a U-shaped molecule to a log. And our bodies make bad cholesterol. The cholesterol that makes our skin and our body, around our organs, makes our arteries, our veins, around the sockets of our eyes, part of our eye, and 90% of our brain is made from bad cholesterols. And they're the repair mechanism. So if you start cooking with oils that are meant to eat raw, you actually are changing the molecular structure. And what happens is your body, when it brings them in, doesn't know what to do with them because it doesn't recognize them as proper food. Yeah. So your liver now takes them out of your bloodstream and stores them for future disposal on your body as fat for future disposal. And that's going to become a negative side effect down the road because it's toxic. So the only thing I could ever cook with my eggs is butter. So butter, when you heat it up, it clarifies. So when it comes down in temperature, it always stays like a liquid. So if you take butter and melt a pound of butter and you screen it, taking some of the solids out, you can put that liquid in your fridge, and even in the cold, it stays as a liquid. But when you pour it out, it's still liquid at any temperature. But if you take olive oil, pure olive oil, and put it in your fridge, it becomes hard like a solid block because the cold makes it turn solid. But clarified butter does not do that. So the same thing when you cook with it and you heat it up and you cool it down, it stays the same way in your blood as a U-shaped molecule. So that flows through your arteries and veins without blocking you up.
Okay, so could one still use olive oil to cook their eggs, or say coconut oil, for example?
No, I don't agree with it. There's people talking about saying, well, it's the best oils to cook with is olive oil and coconut oil as well. But I have one conclusion to that. When I look at people physically that are cooking with vegetable oils or tree oils of any kind, they seem to gain a lot of weight around the midsection of their body. They have overweight around the middle of their body because those oils are poisoning their gut lining. And also at the same time, they're also consuming a lot of carbohydrates from breads and sugars. And those two kinds of fat mix together, and the sugars get turned to fat by your body, they poison you. So that's why so many people have a lot of weight around the midsection of their body. And then if you look at really good doctors who understand that physiology, they'll say, well, that's the quickest way for you to have a heart problem or cancer, is gaining weight around your midsection.
So people shouldn't cook with coconut oil?
No.
Or
olive oil.
Or olive oil.
Now, if you take olive oil like I do, a tablespoon in the morning and a tablespoon at night before I go to bed, right out of the bottle, and I drink it raw, or I put it on a salad, or I put it on bread, And if you, for example, you want to study the blue zones, and I believe there's 9, not 6. If you look around the world, so if you went to Sardinia off the coast of Italy, and you looked at what the Sardinian people do, they're walking all day. Most of them are sheep herders, but they dip the olive oil right from the bottle in the bread, and they eat the bread with olive oil. And do you see these people overweight or out of shape or nothing? I mean, they're eating sardines and olive oil. Basically, that's their main diet, and whatever vegetables they grow. And they make their own fermented bread, like a sourdough style rye. And they average well over 100 years of age, perfectly healthy. They've never seen a doctor.
So olive oil is good for you, but not
Raw,
high
not cooked.
temperatures. Okay. And coconut oil?
It's the same thing. Coconut oil is good for you, but
Right.
when you cook with it, you change its molecular structure. Every oil on earth, as soon as you heat it up, the pan and the heat make electrical signal, and it changes to a trans fat. And it poisons you then.
So what about ghee? Do you know anything about
Ghee is clarified butter.
Okay.
So if we look in the past at historical cultures, if we went back, say, even 20 years ago in India, they had the lowest rate of heart disease in the world. They cooked with clarified butter. They call it ghee. So you can go to any Indian store in the GTA here and anywhere in the world. They sell ghee,
Okay.
right? It's clarified butter
So the only way we should be cooking our eggs is with clarified butter
or real
or
butter.
real butter
That's it.
or boiling it, for example.
Boiling eggs, I think boiling eggs is not a good idea, because you destroy the fats in the eggs, and you also make the egg dry. So instead of it giving you real nutrition, it kind of sucks the energy out of you. It's not the same thing.
So you get more health benefits from the egg
Yes.
if you fry the egg.
Easy over.
but
That
there's
the yolk is still soft.
Okay.
So when I was a kid growing up, I seen my father many times just cracking an egg and swallowing it down raw.
Okay.
And when I first started dealing with people working in my automotive industry years ago that came from the Caribbean islands, and they would come to me and they said they're just off the boat, they wanted a job. And so I noticed these young men had rib stomachs, muscles in their arms and chest. And after a couple of months working with me, I'd say, man, you getting a pot belly. And they'd say, first thing they would say was the food. And I would say, well, what did you eat down there? And they would say, I'd say, well, what'd you do when you were tired? They'd say, well, we'd make a concoction, a little bit of rum, a raw egg, some milk, and English bitters, and we'd mix it together and we'd swallow that down, and it gave us a boost. And you could see that their stomach muscles were as flat as a washboard, and they weren't even exercising. Well, what happened when they were here? They were still working hard, but they were eating foods that were not the same way as the way they grew up, that were more natural. It wasn't processed,
Okay.
right? And my father ate raw eggs on a regular basis, and man, I'm going to tell you something. He had physical strength that is mind-bending.
So basically, if one is to eat processed foods, you're saying that the body does not recognize it as natural?
Cooking foods doesn't destroy the food if it's organically and naturally grown. It's the processing of what happens to the food to give it storage life on a shelf.
Right.
They spray it with all kinds of chemicals. They put chemicals in it so that it won't spoil. It won't grow any mold. It won't have any bacteria, nothing. That's not natural to the human body. The natural way we're supposed to eat food is the same way the deer out eats an apple in the field. It fell on the ground, starts to turn brown, looks like mush. That's when the deer eat it. It looks spoiled, but it's not really. It's digestible because it's filled with enzymes. That's why it's spoiling. The enzymes are eating it. Right? And when you eat foods that are highly processed, you're taking away from your pancreas and your store of enzymes for you to live to 120 years. So when you pull your enzymes out and you don't replace more enzymes in your food supply, you're actually shortening your health span. You destroy your bone marrow and your telomere strands. You make them shorter. Every time you make the telomere strand shorter, you make yourself age less. You're shortening your lifespan.